wants to essentially abolish the Second Amendment. By the way, and if she gets to pick her judges, nothing you can do, folks. Although the Second Amendment people, maybe there is, I don't know. But I'll tell you what, that will be a horrible day.
It may indeed have been nothing more than a joke. It could have been nothing more than an offhanded comment meant to incite a little controversy, which it did. Or it may have been a well-planned-out shot, no pun intended, that was meant to create more media coverage, more discussion about the man himself, an ego boost to a flagging campaign. Or as some are considering, it was designed to heap on more scorn and pave the way for an eventual road out of the race. Now, you get to make your call on which island you want to reside on. That's up to you. But it's fair to say that Donald Trump's quip about those who believe in the Second Amendment is not just fading away. It's the kind of a thing that may stick with him for more than just the usual few days of a news cycle, because it's sending a message to a certain part of the American electorate, a voting bloc that at this moment has no love for the candidate, and it could be that 1 point will cost him an election. Of course, as I said, it could have been nothing more than just a joke. Our guest is host of the nationally syndicated radio show bearing his name, a veteran and sought-after political commentator. Welcome Armstrong Williams back to the Hard Line. Armstrong, it's a pleasure to see you again, and I guess after what we just heard from Donald Trump and all of the discussion that's being made about this comment, let's do it right from the top. What was your immediate take when you heard it?
Well, if you had listened to the speech, he had spent most of his time talking about the Second Amendment, and his was in reference to the people in that audience who believed in the Second Amendment. And the Second Amendment is something that we hold very dear to our hearts, and it protects us. And it was no more than that. I know the media is so bent on hanging on his every word, trying to interpret it, trying to add more meaning to it. It's just another distraction.
Isn't it fair to say, though, that the media, whatever media it is, they will cover things like this because they are looking for all of the candidates, both of the main candidates, if you will, to say something that they look to hang their hat on, they look to hang a 24/7 news cycle on. They're going to report it. They're going to go after it. So would you say that maybe Donald Trump still has to be careful about what he says and make sure his message is on point?
Doesn't matter what he says. The standard for the media now is to scrutinize his every word, his every move. And instead of focusing on the policies and the issues that many Americans care about, we find ourselves distracted by these meaningless issues. And the American people see right through it, and they want Mrs. Clinton and anybody else running for president of the United States held to the same type of scrutiny, and they're not.
Now, the National Rifle Association is backing up Mr. Trump's Second Amendment comments with a $3 million ad buy that is painting Hillary Clinton as a hypocrite. Here's the ad.
She's one of the wealthiest women in politics. Combined income, $30 million. Tours the world on private jets. Protected by armed guards for 30 years. But she doesn't believe in your right to keep a gun at home for self-defense.
I fully appreciate how hard life is for so many Americans today.
An out-of-touch hypocrite. She'd leave you defenseless.
Armstrong, let's get to this first of all, because the NRA, again, they're a staunch supporter of Donald Trump. What do you think about the way that they have reacted here? Because it seems they are speaking right to the people at the Second Amendment, telling them that you should get behind this, that this is something that is completely unfair, and we need to push this election forward. What's your take on the ad buy?
The National Rifle Association, which I've been a member for a long time, just doesn't support Republicans. They support Democrats across the board. They support people who support the Second Amendment, and that transcends party lines. And they're absolutely right. I mean, someone who never has to worry about whether they'll ever be left defenseless, never have to worry about someone breaking in their home or someone hijacking their cars because they have 24-hour armed guards, and the American people are denied in some ways that same privilege and make it so difficult for you to bear arms and get concealed and carry. I think the ad is very adamant, very accurate. It's stuff that I've written in my columns for the past several months that is very hypocritical of her. It's okay for she and her husband to have that kind of protection, but it's not okay for everyday American to have the same right to protect themselves. I think that ad has much legitimacy to it, and I'm glad to see it.
Let's go back and look at the other side of this as well, trying to make sure that we provide both sides of the conversation here. Hillary Clinton, for her side, says she is not here to take away a citizen's right to a gun, and this was her speaking back at the DNC convention.
I'm not here to repeal the Second Amendment. I'm not here to take away your guns. I just don't want you to be shot by someone who shouldn't have a gun in the first place.
So then here's the issue, because Hillary Clinton claims she does not want to keep guns out of the hands of, quote, people we all agree shouldn't have them, domestic abusers, violent felons, and dangerously mentally ill people. And according to PolitiFact, they can find no evidence that Hillary Clinton ever said verbatim, or according to them, suggesting explicitly that she wants to abolish the Second Amendment. However, there are people like yourself and others who immediately believe that this is exactly true and this is what she wants to do. What would be the retort to that, with people like that saying she never said it?
I don't think I think you're correct. She's never advocated abolishing the Second Amendment. These politicians are very crafty and they're very shrewd. What she wants to do is water it down by amendments. It's exactly what she wants to do. Obviously, she's a very crafty politician who's been around. It's one of the reasons why, you know, the difference between she and Mr. Trump, he says what he believes, which gets him in trouble. You know exactly what you're getting. And she's great at theater. She's great at oratory. She's great at temperament and discipline. But what she says is not always what she means. And so you choose between someone that you know exactly what you're getting and somebody who tell you exactly everything you want to hear.
Is there then no doubt in your mind whatsoever, and certainly those who are members of the NRA and those who staunchly back the Second Amendment, that no matter what she says in any of these statements, that when she does, if she does get in office, she will do everything in her power, everything she can to repeal the Second Amendment? Is that your thinking?
I think you don't have to ask me. Just look at the record. Look at who the special interest groups. Look at the lobbyists that pay for her. Look at who she advocates for. These are people that are absolutely against the Second Amendment. They would like to see it go away, even though that may not be her goal. But they're going to do everything they can by electing people in Congress that can continue to water it down, because as far as they're concerned, they want us to become like New York, where you can't even have the right to bear arms unless you're law enforcement, or you're in the diamond business, or you have some kind of special situation that allows it. That's the way they like to see the world. But the world that we live in tells us that the only people who are able to go out and buy guns, if they able to have their way, are these criminals and the very people that we fight against. I mean, honorable, good, hard-working America who train themselves on firearms and train their children on being responsible and disciplined are not out here to harm. What they want to do is protect other Americans from being harmed by people who are unlawful, people who are terrorists. And the bottom line is that the American way of life is only strengthened by responsible people bearing arms. We never talk about the number of lives that are saved by responsible people owning guns, being properly trained for guns, constantly trained for guns. We rather talk about these people who get these firearms and kill for no reason at all, or these accidental firearms that go off. That is such a small portion of it, and we never talk about the overall issue of the lives and the lives that are saved and circumstances that are prevented every day.
Then let's do just that for the couple of minutes we have left here, because tragically your cousin, the Reverend Clementa Pinckney, was among the 9 church members killed in South Carolina by Dylann Roof. Are you then of the opinion that if someone in that congregation would have had a weapon in their possession, that Dylann Roof would not be walking and breathing today, and that would have been the thing that needs to be done?
You know, it's not necessarily, as someone who has conceal and carry, it's not about firing your firearm. It's about if you're trained and you have good instincts, just the fact that you brandish that firearm in and of itself is a deterrent. He actually saw those people as being weak and feeble that he could take advantage of. If he realized that somebody was packing as much heat as he was, I'm willing to bet you that less people had died, he would have had a different attitude, and the outcome would have been quite different.
But do you still think, and again, I want to just get this here, because those people were unarmed, and they would have seen this coming, perhaps. So do you still believe that they should have been armed, and they should have basically used their Second Amendment rights and been ready for somebody like this? That's what America needs to think about.
I'm not going to advocate for the carrying of guns in church. That's a very difficult challenge for me. But I will say this, that when you're in the house of worship, you're in the house of the Lord, you believe people to be good, you believe that people are there for prayer and forgiveness and for unity. The last thing you would ever think is that someone would come into the house of worship, somebody who's a stranger, who had never been in that church before, they would come in with the attitude to want to kill and destroy lives. And so what he found, and he knew this, that the people in that congregation was very weak, They were very vulnerable, and the last thing they would have suspected is that he would have pulled out a gun and killed them down as if they were less than human.
And let's do this, because I'm all out of time, unfortunately, but I do want to say, I know exactly where you're saying, let's hope something like this never happens again, and still protect ourselves.
Yes.
That's the important part right there. Armstrong Williams, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate your time. Hey, don't forget to tune in to Newsmax TV, the special interview with Donald Trump tonight. He'll be on Newsmax Prime with J.D. Hayworth at 8 p.m. and 11 p.m. Eastern Time. He has some very provocative things to say about Hillary Clinton, so don't miss it. It's coming up tonight right here on Newsmax. Breaking back with the political animal. More on Trump's comments about the birth of ISIS. And who knows, maybe even a few words about the actual issues. It could just happen if we're lucky, all right? Stick with us. The Hardline continues.